Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the P-LotPodcast. John here, joined once again by the main man himself, Michael. Michael, how are we doing, man? I don't know if you've looked outside or been outside yet today, but today actually is going to feel like the first day of spring. The sun is making its first appearance when it feels like an entire week.
Yeah,
Uh,
you look like I don't know, like a saint or something with the way the
yeah,
sun's shining upon you.
Yeah, I'm patron saint of pissed off right now with some of the topics we will be discussing today on the program.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Dude, it's gonna be nice. I'm definitely got to touch grass today. That's a requirement. I'm probably gonna
hmm
go lift weights and go for a walk today at some point
Yeah,
as
that'll be
well.
nice.
So yeah, man. Well, we got a lot going on in sports right now. Last night, WBC. Uh, if you have not seen the Kyle Schwarber moonshot that he hit, that almost hit the scoreboard in right field at the Trop. Well, not the
Not the
Trop, but
truck. Houston.
Houston. What do they call?
Dyken Park. Dyken Park. Don't know what Dyken is. I think it's
I
some
don't
sort
know.
of
It's
oil.
yeah,
Um,
whatever corporate overlord has
yeah.
named that park, I suppose. Did you
Once
see?
again, the Phillies bailing out Team USA in the WBC. Nothing new there. Um, I will say, like, the US has to pick up the electricity factor a little bit. I think the crowds are a little tame and lame, and I think the players are a little bored, if it makes sense, where it's like, we had 2 walk-off home runs, yesterday, or yeah, 2 walk-off home runs yesterday. We had Puerto Rico hit a walk-off home run, and we had, Ozzy Albies and the Netherlands walking off, Nicaragua as well yesterday, and, like, those 2 moments were absurdly electric, players going nuts, crowd going nuts, it was awesome, and then, like, Schwarber hits the big homer, and it feels big, it feels important, but it feels like a home run in, like, September of the playoff stretch as opposed to, like, a playoff game, um, and, like, hopefully that rises up once, like, you get out of pool play or whatever, but so far the WBC's been awesome. Lot of good games. Shout out Dante Nori, Phillies number 7 prospect, cranking a couple homers yesterday against Brazil. That was pretty cool to see. Yeah, Phillies are kind of showing out, and it's always cool. Like WBC is very cool to see a lot of like lower level prospects, or just players that didn't really get an opportunity, or like they just won't get an opportunity to play in the major leagues, and like they come and show out. Manny Ramirez's son hitting 2 home runs off the United States. That was pretty cool. The 17-year-old pitcher from Brazil also, getting judged to hit into an inning-ending double play. Like that's really cool. Um, so yeah, like a lot of cool moments like that. A lot of little cool things that go along with, all the fun stuff around the WBC. So always a good time. I think the I think the pitchers are really struggling the most, like the ones that are like major league pitchers, because I think their adrenaline is kind of pushing them to a big game, but their arms just aren't really caught up with it. Skubal giving up the home run, and Sanchez having a annoying outing because Austin Wells doesn't know how to catch a game behind the dish, and the defense for the Dominican Republic wasn't playing well. But like Logan Webb wasn't cruising, as much during that game. So I think it's interesting to see how the pitchers are like super jacked up, but like their arm isn't, it's March. This is spring training ultimately, in terms of the calendar. But they're trying to pitch like it's August, where they're fully locked in and stuff. So but it's entertaining. We got more games. Japan, I think, was winning last I checked. Those games are starting like in the middle of the night, basically over there. Japan, oh, they won 4-3 against Australia. Very tight game. Australia's got a nice little squad, but we have a full barrage of games today, starting at noon all the way until 8 p.m. So very exciting. to be able to kind of
I
tune
think
in.
it's kind of funny. I like that you have guys that are like well past their major league careers that are playing for some of these teams, like shout out
Hmm.
former Philly Vance Worley last night.
Right, right.
It's funny. It was so funny seeing Vance Worley. I remember um, in 2011 going to a game where everyone thought was going to get rained out, but it was like mid to late September, and they don't like to play double headers before the playoffs. So I like they're going to try to get this game in. My buddy Joel and I, we both went, and we managed to sneak down to like the 20th row because there
Hmm.
was no one there for this game. And the Phillies, that was the year the Phillies at the time set the franchise record for most wins in a season too. And Vance Worley was the pitcher. I was like, oh wow, that was like 15 years ago, and yet, you know, here he is pitching in the
Well,
WBC.
yeah, isn't that pretty bizarre?
Yeah, and then Alexei Ramirez plays for Cuba, and I
Yeah,
remember.
he's like 40. Like literally, it's like a
No, I think
42-year-old.
I might be older than that, dude. Like, did you ever see the highlights from Mark Burley's perfect game? The announcer when he goes, Alexei, it's Alexei
Yeah,
Ramirez.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
20 years ago, Michael.
He's 44 years old. How about that? Last played a Major League Baseball game. Uh, he went 4 for 5 in his final game. Good for him. On October 2nd, 2016, as a member of the Tampa Bay Rays. Isn't that pretty nuts? That is crazy.
Yeah, I love that WBC is like the World Cup for baseball because I remember when
Yeah,
it first got
it's
aired.
awesome, man.
I
It
remember when it
really is.
first got introduced, people thought it was kind of dumb because they were like, "Oh, like why is baseball trying to copy soccer with the World Cup? Like they're having it as in spring training, like no one's going to care. Basically, like the players aren't going to care. But no, it's I think it's great that this is treated very seriously, and you know,
Yeah, absolutely. So it's good stuff. Entertaining. But we do have some other, reluctantly, at least one other sport to talk about. A couple other sports to talk about before we get into the Phillies pitcher preview. Um, but notably, what has passed is the NHL trade deadline has come and gone, and the Flyers didn't do much, John. They did not do much, with an opportunity to do a lot, and I just could not be more like I just couldn't be more discouraged with the direction of the franchise or the lack thereof, direction of the franchise, and it's frustrating. They made, like, an AHL trade, and they made 2 NHL trades, one being, a Bobby Brink, David Jiricek swap. Jiricek, a defenseman from the Wild that the Flyers have, like, been linked to for, like, at least a year or so now, and the Wild have been linked to Bobby Brink for a while as well, so it just felt like a matter of time before some sort of trade went through. Um, that one pretty inoffensive. I think it's ultimately probably a positive for the Flyers in a way that, like, you have a lot of young wingers that we're gonna talk about today a little bit that Bobby Brink just ultimately probably didn't have the highest ceiling of all the ones that you have coming through the pipeline. So it makes sense to kind of sell on him now as opposed to, you know, him clogging up a spot for a guy like Alex Bump or, Denver Bark. You know what I mean?
or
So
Porter Martone is the big
of
one.
course Martone's like the big fish coming through next year, but it's like, you know, Bump is now on the NHL roster now that Bobby Brink's been traded. And David Jiricek, former top pick in like the 2022 NHL draft, I want to say. Very interesting
He was
sort of
taken one
defenseman.
spot after the Flyers selected Cutter Gauthier.
Yes, he's got a great shot as a defenseman. The
Yeah,
biggest
you
con
saw
for
last night
him,
in his highlights. He had a pretty good goal.
really nice goal for the Phantoms. The big con on him is he's not a great skater. He's kind of a bit of a lug out there. It feels like one of those guys that would have been like awesome in the early 2000s of just like ripping shots from the point, and you didn't need him to be like this crazy good skater. But it's a work in progress. If you can work out his skating and get it to more of a respectable level, that's like really nice power play player and also just a solid, top four
I wonder if he's
defenseman to
gonna.
have on the team.
I guess like the Flyers think he could be like the next like Brent Burns, like this big lug defenseman that just
The
rips
problem is
shots.
Burns can just move though. Like he just needs to get if
Yeah.
he can get the skating up, he becomes a pretty dangerous player. Um, but unfortunately, not unfortunately, but well, I guess kind of unfortunately, he's going to be
Wild
spending
gave
some
up a
time in the
lot to
AHL.
acquire him from the Columbus Blue Jackets too.
Yeah, just never panned out. But again, it's ultimately the trade's probably mostly inoffensive.
What did you think of the comments from Bill Guerin's like boomer comments about them getting Bobby Brink, where
That was weird.
it's like this isn't a vacation spot because he's buddies with Matt Boldy. Like he's really tight with I think Boldy.
Well, uh he's from Minnesota. Like he's from up there. He's like it's not going to be a vacation. It's not going to be a homecoming. And I was like, I don't know, like what are we talking about? What a weird thing to say. Like a kid's probably excited to go play home in front of his friends and family and like the first thing you say
It
is it's
sounds like
not
Guerin was pissed that they know they need bodies because they're such a top heavy talent team.
right.
Like they have some of the best players legitimately in the league on their team, and then it's like it just drops. So they needed Bobby Brink.
Hmm.
They can certainly afford to keep him because they have this drought at forward, right?
Yeah.
Um, you probably didn't want to give up Yurchek because of his like offensive abilities, and plus, I don't think they're going to be able to re-sign Quinn Hughes. I think Quinn Hughes is going to want to test free agency.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think they're trying to make a push for this year, and I don't think Juracek was in their plans for this year. He's been playing a lot in the AHL, so, ultimately that's just like a whatever move. They dumped Delorier, which like finally, I guess. I can't believe they gave that guy like as big of a contract as they gave him. Truly insane to me. That's a Fletcher move, but like just ridiculously dumb. You give a goon, a guy that barely plays, like you're genuinely your like 14th forward is getting a 4-year contract, like just to have. I don't know. It just makes no sense. Um, but he's gone for like nothing, some late pick or something, whatever. And then that was it. And that's I think more where the issue comes in that was it. And Danny Briere's press conference did very little to exude like any sort of belief or confidence in him and the team. Um, kind of blaming the media for like conjuring up this uh Ristolainen like drama, saying like, I
Yeah, but
never
it
felt that we were
wasn't.
going to
Yeah,
trade
but
him.
he's lying. He's clearly lying because it was reported out of Detroit. So all right, I guess we'll just cut to the chase here. The big thing is the Flyers. The Flyers have been trying to shop Ristolainen for the last 2 weeks. That is absolutely a fact.
Last like 2 years, dude. It's not even, you
Yes,
know what I mean?
it is an unequivocal fact that the Flyers have been looking to finally move off of Rasmus Ristolainen's contract.
Hmm.
I'm gonna pull him up. I looked this up too, and I saw like both sides to this where people were like, I don't know, like the boomer fans were like, oh, Flyers Twitter doesn't realize that Ristolainen stinks because he never plays games, and yet, you see all these like mid defensemen get moved for, big packages. So and like the point you brought, Ristolainen is a useful player,
He's a
you know.
nice player. Like he's actually he plays better than some of the like analytics show. And it's just it's also his position has become like a weak spot across the NHL. A right-handed, a big right-handed defenseman. Like they just don't exist in today's NHL. And it's pretty much all teams wanted, all these contenders and fringe teams that wanted to throw themselves into the lump of playoff contenders. They were all looking to acquire a guy like Rasmus Ristolainen, and you saw how much teams were paying in terms of draft capital for guys that were on the same level, if not worse, than Ristolainen was. You know what I mean? And it's
Exactly. And that's the thing. That's the point is that, you saw what the yeah, so it felt like the Flyers were striking out because they wanted at least a first round pick and
mhm,
more for Risto. And you saw a lot of these moves. You didn't see it was like this team trades 3 second-round picks, a player, and a conditional third-round pick for one guy.
mhm,
Um, you saw that, and then you would see these other moves where you're like, "Oh my god, this team traded like two draft picks, high draft picks for like a fourth line center." You see,
mhm.
in other words, the contenders were paying out the wazoo for like basically mediocre talent because the playoff picture is so wide open this year, right?
Yeah.
And the NHL of the four major sports has the most unpredictable postseason. Like Michael, there's a
Mhm.
possibility the Avalanche could not make the Western Conference Finals because that's how unpredictable.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
team that wins the President's Trophy doesn't always have a great postseason. It's actually kind
Right.
of people call it a curse when you win the
Right.
President's Trophy in the NHL. It's bizarre,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know. So the Flyers, like your point, it like brought up like the Flyers essentially offloading a player they had no interest in re-signing to open up a spot to bring up a young player, a promising young player, and trading an enforcer who contributes nothing on offense, you know, for nothing. It's baffling to me. This is what it kind of reminds me of, Michael, and this is before your time when the Phillies of like the early 2000s were in like the same spot the Flyers are in now, where they're not bad enough where it's like your full blown rebuild, like lose 100 games every year, like we blow. But they're also just not going to sniff the playoffs and be serious contenders, you know?
The
And
only difference is well, go ahead. Go ahead.
and like those Phillies, they had some good players. Like, yeah, like, young Jimmy Rollins, Bobby Abreu, Pat Burrell.
I mean, the big difference is that team was a lot closer with actual prospects that would have been that are, in baseball world considered enough to put yourself in a good spot. And it was like Cole Hamels showed up,
Yeah, but
Utley
the
came
Phillies
around,
got
Rollins.
extremely lucky that like Chase. People forget this about Chase Utley, Michael. Chase Utley like apparently could not play any defense. Like he was
He became
horrific.
a great fielder. I
Right, like that's the
understand.
thing. They got lucky with that. The Flyers are like I don't know what satanic rituals they perform to get such bad luck that they have with like the Cutter Gauthier situation, whiffing on draft picks, like horrifically whiffing on draft picks, um, trying to alienate your best young player on the team. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, it's just dumb, really, because the reason they're not trading Ristolainen is because they set an unrealistic high trade uh package return requirement. Like they wanted a first and a prospect or something, where like the first and third that went for Justin Falk like clearly wasn't enough, I guess, because that Detroit like they wanted the big right-handed defenseman, and Ristolainen's a better player. They clearly called the Flyers, and the Flyers weren't budging off what they were asking for. Okay. Um,
yeah, like
the
that's
issue is
that's
that the Flyers are still trying to make the playoffs. That's the problem. They're still in a mode where they think they can make the playoffs and just get in. Like that's what they want to do. If they weren't all in on that sort of thought process, they wouldn't have done half the things they've done this year. Like they cited one of the reasons as why they extended Dvorak was he was playing well and we wanted to give some like positive vibes to the locker room that we believe in this group and we're not just going to dump him at the deadline like people think we're going to do. Which, like, not for nothing, you got a first round pick from Scott Lawton last year, who was like not good, and just got traded for a third-round pick this year. You could have very easily gotten a first-round pick, maybe even a first and a late-round pick for Christian Dvorak, and you effed around and gave him an extension and just are, like, waiting around, or I don't know what you're doing, and not trading Ristolainen for anything or not looking to move him. That's just a like, not for nothing, when is his value gonna be any higher? He's on a contract that contenders around the league view as favorable. He's due $5 million-ish next year, and then he's a free agent. So you have him, in theory, you trade for him as a contender, you have him for this year's playoff run, and you have him for next year when you're gonna make the playoffs again. And that's a nice defenseman to have for 2 years, and then he's off your books and off your team. It's not a big deal. And the Flyers, like, even if they really plan on moving him in the offseason, his value is gonna be less. His value is less because you're making it a trade for a rental just because it's in the offseason. This isn't a rental. You get 2 years out of him if you do it now, or 2 playoff runs if you do it now. But now you've waited, and now if you do end up moving him, it's just a rental. It's a one-year rental. You're gonna have him for the season, and that's gonna be it. And, like, you're just not going to get as much. It was a seller's market this year, and it was a great opportunity for a team like the Flyers, who's on the fence, on the bubble, to sell and throw yourself into the slop with the rest of the league, and just set yourself up to keep acquiring good young players. Like, I know everyone's sick of it. I know there's this pressure that the last 6 years have been a disaster, but from a combination of poor drafting and bad player development, it's you haven't fully bottomed out yet, and you're not gonna be able to be like one of those teams that doesn't bottom out and can get good again because you don't have good enough player development in the building. You don't have good enough drafting. You don't draft well enough. So it's like the combination of those 2 things, you can't operate the way you want to operate. If you wanna operate the way you're doing it, you need better people in the building, better people in the organization to turn some of these young players into actual legitimate pieces as opposed to the idea of them. Like, I'm looking at Joel Farabee, I'm looking at Morgan Frost. Like, those 2 guys were supposed to be, forwards on this team and centers and wingers for years to come. And we traded both of them because they both really weren't that good, and they're not doing anything crazy in
I think
Calgary and
Joel
stuff.
Farabee's back injury essentially ruined his NHL
Sure,
career.
it was, but you know what I mean. You get what I'm saying. That even then, like, Farabee wasn't. I don't know. It still needed a lot of things to go his way for him to become like a legitimate piece. He was solid, but like solid's not good enough. We have plenty of solid on the team. We need actual legitimate stars. We need serious players that are actually game changers. You know what I mean? On a
Well,
consistent
this is what I
basis.
find bizarre, though, Michael, and I guess this is kind of goes into like our next topic. Last night, the Flyers beat the Malkin-less, Crosby-less Penguins in shootout. Um, Alex Bump had his first NHL goal in his first NHL game, which was very nice to see.
Yeah.
Um, Denver Barkey had to play more minutes because of Flyers were banged up. Obviously, they traded Brink away.
That's
This is
another thing. They're banged up too. Like, you're trying to make the playoffs. Your best players are hurt. Like, why not just get it just sell, just get
this
it
is
over
what I
with.
don't understand. Well, Michael, this is the issue. That, like, grand scheme overall, okay, we're trying to make the playoffs. Obviously, okay, fine. Let's just say you're going that route, right? We're trying to make the playoffs, yet we're not going to make any moves that are going to help the team reach that goal. It's like you're half in, and this is what like my early 2000s Phillies comp is, Michael. They weren't trying to make the playoffs. Like, oh, we're trying to make the playoffs, but like we're going to trade Scott Rowland away at the deadline because he doesn't want to be here. We're going to trade Kurt Schilling away because he doesn't want to be here. We're not going to add anybody at the deadline. Like that's the thing though. That's where like the frustration comes in. And the thing that's kind of saved those Phillies teams was that they went actually spent money in free agency when they opened up Citizens Bank Park. They signed Jim Thome. They traded for Kevin Millwood. Like this is the worst, and this is apparently one of the worst NHL free agent classes like in a very long time that's coming up. And
Yeah.
if you think about it, a team like the Flyers, if they're serious about rebuilding, are actually
But
going to
they're
be in
not.
this.
Like, full stop. They're not. They're not serious about rebuilding. They're not. They haven't called it a rebuild this whole time. Like, I sent you that tweet. That was like a screenshot of a tweet from 2022, and it was like they view like the Hayes, Konechny, uh, Ryan Ellis, and like um, Sanheim or whatever as the future core of the team, like the big core future, and we're not expecting this to be the 3 to 5 year rebuild. We want this to be a retool, and it's like here we are, man, 4 years later, and it's a disaster. Like it's truly a horrific situation.
This is where it's just frustrating, though. Is like let's say that, okay, let's just say the Flyers missed the playoffs by like 12 points. We'll just say
Mhm.
you're gonna run back the same roster. Like, geez, Michael, we're bitching about like a 96-win Phillies team running back almost the same roster, right?
Right.
This is like if the Phillies were like a 78-win team and they're running back the same roster, thinking they're going to win 95 games. Like that to me is a fireable offense on Danny Briere and
Yeah.
Keith Jones. If they go into the offseason and they're going to get calls on like Owen Tippett, and they're like, oh, we just love Tips so much, where they're getting offered like for like multiple draft picks, including a first round pick. Like if you want to actually build a winning team, you don't necessarily have to trade all these guys for draft picks and use all said picks simply
Mhm.
because you just want to have enough room in your system for all of them, right? You
Yeah.
know, but it involves you actually picking up the phone and making like realistic offers. Like what Danny like it's like Danny Briere thinks he's like Howie Roseman in terms of how he's like making all of these moves, where Howie Rose was actually knows what he's doing. Like he's savvy about it. He's not going to take less because he feels like he has to.
Mhm.
That's the mind numbing thing about it. And plus, he's aggressive. Moving up in the draft, getting like making good picks.
Yeah.
Like that's the frustrating thing. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna sit on my hands and oh, we're gonna like, oh, fans have to be patient. Like, that's another thing too. Like they're jacking up ticket prices. You got to have a big set of brass balls after the disaster of last year to raise like season ticket prices by 5-10%.
Yeah. It's just they're like top to bottom. It's just a pretty big disaster at this point, and it's frustrating, man. It really is because at the same time, while it feels like they're so far away, it really wouldn't take a ton to put out a roster on opening night next year that gets you excited because you have all your young guys up that we have heavy belief in, like Bump, like Barkey, like Martone, Michkov. You have Zegras out there. Um, and like while you won't expect like, oh, this team will definitely make the playoffs, it's just your influx of young talent that also wipes away a lot of your, like, veteran garbage. Like, no one wants to see the veteran garbage anymore, you know what I mean? Like, the 2 goals that you pointed out, Bump's got a goal assisted from, what was it? Michkov and Barkey and Bump all got points. Another young guy also got in there and got points, and it's like, that's what we wanna see. I don't need to see any more Konechny stuff. I don't need to see Couturier out there, and again, it's hard. You can't just throw all those guys away,
I mean,
but
Michael,
they're tradable, you know what I mean? Like,
that's the
Konechny is
thing.
tradable.
That's the thing, Michael, is like, yeah, you're right. They're like Travis, like you're right. People don't want to see, like, I'm sorry, like their read on, I think, like Keith Jones, and I think it's really Keith Jones. Like their read on this is like, oh, is basically, I think, and I hate to say it because Keith Jones used to basically, besides being an NHL analyst, was a morning show host on WIP. How many friggin' boomers they called into that morning show during the Hinkie era and complained about the Sixers tanking?
Right.
Probably
Right.
like every day, I would
Yeah.
say, you
Yeah.
know. And he's probably worried. They're probably worried if they were to move Konechny and like Sanheim. I mean, they're scared to move Ristolainen. They're not going to move Sanheim or Konechny unless they go to them and say, "Get me out of this hellhole. I will not lace my skates for this organization anymore.
Yeah.
You're going to have to trade
Yeah.
me now."
Yeah. Yeah. It just.
Like if I was Travis,
Uh,
if I was Travis Konechny's agent or Sanheim's agent, I would say demand a trade in the offseason.
but
Like
it's hard to tell if these guys give a shit, though. You know what I mean? Like, Konechny is so, like, deeply ingrained and forced himself ingrained into the city and stuff that it's like, he might not wanna leave.
then
He
don't
might
complain
just be
about
happy
losing.
here.
Then don't complain
I
about
hear it, but,
losing.
like, he's you know what I mean? Like, I don't think I would love for him to ask out, and you can make that so much easier where you can just do it, but I don't think they want to, you know what I mean? I don't think the team wants to trade him, and I don't think he wants to get traded, and, like, ultimately, he's just not gonna get moved, like, he's not getting traded for that. Um, but I'm done. I'm done talking about the Flyers. I'm done. I'm over it.
So speaking of moves, let's talk about we had some moves in the NFL offseason this week.
Yeah,
There's
we had a
two
couple 2 big trades,
trades.
and Eagles made a move. Let's
Yeah,
start with the Rams. So the Rams acquired, Trent McDuffie, cornerback from
did
the
you see that happening?
I
I
mean,
did
I
not.
saw the rumors that they were looking to trade him because I don't think they wanted to extend him. I think they're trying to do a little bit of a retool situation. I obviously think they're a worse team as of now because of it, but I definitely believe that, they'd rather have the draft capital because they've been a very bad drafting team, Kansas City. McDuffie's one of their few draft hits, but you miss on so many, you just kind of need to acquire them. It was for 4 draft picks, the 29th overall pick in this year's draft, a 2026 5th and 6th, and a 2027 third round pick. Pretty decent all. Um, but I think that the Rams absolutely won this trade. This is a trade that, like, it all but locks in that they're gonna have the best roster in the NFL next year. They probably had the best roster in the NFL close to this year. The only big issue, we talked about it, was that their corners were bad and their corners couldn't cover anybody. They gave up such a high percentage of their yards were allowed by their cornerbacks. And, this is one of the top corners in the NFL. It's a great player that definitely is gonna help out their situation. Like, these are Super Bowl pushing in moves. The Rams have that kind of, you know, they've only made one first round draft pick since they selected Jared Goff back in 2016, and it was Jared Verse back in 2024. And, like, we can laugh, we can make fun of it or whatever, but the fact of the matter is that since 2016, the Rams have been really good. The Rams have been one of the best teams in the NFL over the last decade, no doubt about it. They got Goff, and with McVay and Todd Gurley, they, like, instantly became one of the best teams in the league, one of the best offenses in the NFL. Obviously, Aaron Donald was here throughout all of this. Then you go through your phase of Cooper Cup and Goff looks really good, and you go to a Super Bowl, and it's like, wow, this is awesome. You lose the Super Bowl, you move on from Goff, you get a better quarterback upgrade in Stafford, you're still trading all these first round picks. And what do you go ahead and do? You go and win a Super Bowl. Cooper Cup wins the Triple Crown. You're doing awesome. You go get Puka Nakua, mid-round draft pick. Like, that's how you make it work. You make it work by acquiring guys in the mid rounds that end up being the best at their position in the league. You know what I mean? And you trade draft capital, high-end draft capital for Devontae Adams, and you go from look at the team that lost to the Eagles in the snow, and it was only Puka that was killing us. And they were like, you know what? we're going to just get another guy. We're going to get another guy that becomes a matchup nightmare for everybody else. And it was, getting Devontae Adams unlocked a whole new level of the Rams offense. The Rams offense that sort of struggled in the red zone became unstoppable in the red zone. And it was, great. And they addressed their biggest weakness every offseason. And whether that's through the draft or through whatever, here it is. They're getting a corner. Their biggest weakness was corner. They got a corner. And it opens up the conversation a little bit that when NFL teams are evaluating the draft and evaluating prospects, they give them grades, right? They give them first round grade, second round grade, day 2, day 3. You know what I mean? Grades in that way. We'd be very naive to think that any NFL team has 32 guys with a first round grade any given season. Obviously not. There's never 32 players that an NFL team thinks is a true, genuine, no doubt about it, first round talent between raw talent, between athleticism, between like health, between off the field stuff. There are not 32 guys that exist any given year that each team views worthy to assign a first round grade to. And some years, I'm sure it's closer to 32. Some years, it might be only 15. You know what I mean? And I think this is a weaker draft class in terms of like high end talent in it, where you can argue that like Jeremiah Love might be the best prospect in the town. The first overall pick, Fernando Mendoza, you could maybe argue isn't even a first round talent. You know what I mean? Does he go in the first round in the draft that had, Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert and like Tua and all that? You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying. Um, so the Rams, I think, take that approach pretty literally, where if they're picking in a spot where they don't think they're going to be able to get a guy with a true first round grade, trade it. Why have it? Why trade? Why draft someone at 29 with the hope that, they can turn into something and develop into something when you could use that to acquire a player that is already really, really good, that is an all pro caliber player in Trent McDuffie. It's every team builds their team differently, but it's hard to argue what the Rams do is bad when it has this much success and these sort of moves do tend to pan out. Like there's no reason for them to not have the best roster in the league next year. And like, as long as Stafford isn't too decrepit, like they're going to be another great
Yeah,
Super Bowl contender.
yeah. The Rams ship is going to 100% depend on Matthew Stafford. Um, yeah, his availability, obviously. Well, here's the thing, too. The big thing about this trade, though, too, Michael, this is very important. I want to bring up, too. I think we both agree this is a good trade for the Rams in terms of getting over the hump and winning another Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford. I think we
Yeah.
can both agree to that. However, this is very much a going all in type move in my opinion, because the Rams don't really have a quarterback on the roster that I think you would feel good about being the heir apparent to Stafford. And unless they want to go the Kyle Shanahan route of acquiring a bust quarterback and like rehabbing him like they did with like Mac Jones and Sam Darnold as backups to eventually become a starter again. This has to work, man. Just because we look at the last two times they got knocked out of the playoffs, Matthew Stafford had the ball last, couldn't get it done. The
Yeah.
Seahawks get the ball last, they milk the clock out, and Sean McVay kind of. Do you think Cooper Kupp got a first down on that drive? I don't think
And
he.
listen, it goes. I think I hear you. I definitely hear you. I just
But
think it
we
goes
all know why they
deeper
got a
than that.
corner. Sam Darnold has basically been a game manager for the last 6-7 weeks of the season until the NFC Championship game where he threw for 350 plus yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, all season the Rams corners were getting killed. Like think of how many games they lost during the regular season where it
The
was just
Eagle game.
single-handedly blown by their corners and special teams, and especially their corners. The Eagle game, no one could guard A.J. Brown in the second half, and, like, that simply they were just throwing it up to him, and the game was over. The Panther game that they lost in the regular season, 2 fourth downs where Emmanuel Forbes got burnt like toast twice by once by Ted McMillan and once by Jalen Coker. 4 touchdowns, like 2 fourth downs, he gets burnt 4 touchdowns twice. And
By
it's
Jalen
like
Coker.
Coker and I think McMillan had the other one. And it's like those are nice players. That doesn't happen to Trent McDuffie twice. You know what I mean? Like it just you have a good corner. It builds on it for the regular season. You probably get the 1 seed. You probably don't lose the games that you lose. And it's like you just have a guy that can go follow around JSN, and even as good as he is, or you triple bracket JSN and have McDuffie go lock down anyone else, and like say, okay, your only option to throw is going to be triple coverage or strapped.
I
You know what I
have
mean?
a
You just it changes your whole scope of defense when you get a lockdown corner. We saw early in the season when before Dory Jackson really settled in and started playing well, how like how different Vic Fangio and was playing defense and coaching defense, where the Eagles were running a ridiculous amount of blitzes early in the season because they weren't getting pass rush help and they couldn't rely on the second corner to cover up for long enough. So they were just sending all these blitzes and trusting Quinion on an island and shifting the defense so heavily to the other side and was like, you know what? This is our best bet. Like Quinion, you're one on the weak side. We're sending blitzes, and we just hope that the quarterback doesn't have enough time to beat whoever our second corner is. And when you have that, totally changes the scope of everything. Rams can get a ton of pressure, and now you got to deal with McDuffie. It's scary.
Well, the
The
question is
Rams are
going to
really
be
good.
which McDuffie are the Rams going to get? Because McDuffie had his worst year of his professional career last year. He was mending a knee injury. I mean, the big thing is that I think of that Thanksgiving game where he's just getting lit up by CD Lamb and George Pickens, where you saw like he got penalized a ton in that game too, where someone brought up it was the most times he was penalized more for pass interference in that game than he had like his entire career like overall.
Yeah, I mean, uh, to say it depends what type of Trent McDuffie you get. I don't know. I'm going to assume I'm going to get the guy that was a first team All Pro 2 years ago and a second team All Pro the following year. Like he's just really good. Like he's just a really,
Oh
really
yeah,
good
he is,
player.
and you know what? The Chiefs don't have a great track record of when they let these guys go, like they just they fall off. Like Joe Tooney just won the Protector of the Year award for the
Hmm.
Bears, and then
Hmm.
Tyreek Hill, made Tua look good for 18, 20 games. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. There's other. Let's talk about the next move. The Buffalo Bills. Um, Stupidly traded a second round pick to the Chicago Bears for DJ Moore. The Bryce Young trade still paying dividends for the Chicago Bears, Michael.
Yeah, it's
You know my
this is
thoughts on that trade. I just told you what I thought they were.
yeah,
Give
yeah.
you
No, I
one
hear
more.
you. I do think a second round pick for DJ Moore might be a little steep. Um,
A little steep.
Listen, I do think there's a good player inside with DJ Moore, absolutely, but there's definitely there's issues he's got going on. He
He's on the
dogs
wrong
routes
side of
sometimes.
30.
Yeah, he dogs routes sometimes. He's actually been pretty healthy, but he just like had a bad look for the playoff game where it looked like he kind of gave up on his route. And I listen, I don't know. Was he pouty because he kind of was getting slowly phased out of the offense as the year went on, and the year before he was super involved and stuff? I don't know. Um, Listen, well, I'll give Buffalo crap just generally because you had so many available receivers over the years that you never budged at, and like DJ Moore is the one you finally fork over a day two pick for, and it's like okay, but I mean, instantly he becomes like he's one of your top two receivers on the team, arguably your number one. I don't know, however you feel about like Shakir, but
I think Khalil
it
Shakir,
makes
right?
the receiving
I think
core better.
I think
It definitely does.
2026 Khalil Shakir is a better wide receiver than 2026 DJ Moore. DJ Moore, I mean, listen, bro. We know Ben Johnson. Is he arrogant? Yes. Is he full of himself? Yes. Is he the best offensive mind in the NFL? Probably. If he doesn't want to get DJ Moore heavily involved in the offense, that sort of tells me that he kind of knows he's like on the way down,
Hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And listen, dude, I saw this. I saw someone joke about the trade. Oh, now Bills fans have someone to blame for another Josh Allen playoff disaster class where he dogs it on a route and Allen throws like a game-ending pick. You
Hmm.
know, like to me, this is like I don't know, man. Let's just pretend for a moment. Let's pretend that AJ Brown, the Eagles were like dead set on trying to get rid of AJ Brown,
Hmm.
right? Even though we both know financially it doesn't make sense, roster wise, it doesn't make sense. Let's just say they were. If you're the Bills, and let's say the Eagles wanted a first and a third for AJ Brown, trading your second round pick instead for DJ Moore is like you're at a car lot. Someone's trying to sell their Maserati for $60,000. And instead, you buy like a Honda Civic for $50,000.
My thought too is like you trade Stefon Diggs away for a fourth round pick, who obviously got hurt in Houston, but was having a really nice year before he got hurt, and obviously had a really nice year this year for New England, and was like a huge part as to why the offense was as good as it was, and why they, all that sort of great stuff. I don't know. I guess DJ Moore is probably a pretty polarizing player among front offices and among teams. I'm sure you get a pretty wide range of
Well, I
responses on
would
how they
think they
feel
would
about
have been
him.
a team to go jump into the Alec Pierce sweepstakes
Yeah.
because I'm sure Alec Pierce wants to get paid. But if Alec Pierce had to choose between playing between the Bills and, let's say, the Las Vegas Raiders, I think he's going to want to pick the Bills over a couple of $1 million, then go to the Raiders.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll see where Alec Pierce ends up going. But yeah, there was another trade that was bigger than
Yeah, it's
both of
just
those
I
trades,
was
really.
man, kind of came out. Not was like it
I
came
wouldn't
out.
say it came out of nowhere. I mean, it was like the
It
worst
came
case.
out of left field with the team that was acquiring him because I did not know they were
You didn't
this.
see any links? I saw links.
I
I
thought it
saw
was going to
like
be. I dead ass thought it was going to be like the Cowboys,
I
or
did think the Cowboys were going to be the
I
top.
thought it was going to be the Cowboys because of all the draft capital that they have.
I think if I had to guess, we're talking about Max Crosby here, gets traded to the Baltimore Ravens for 2 first-round picks this year and next year. Pretty simple. Um, I think the Cowboys, I think they offered a first and a second, and I think the Raiders were like gonna do it, but then called around and Baltimore decided they were gonna fork over 2 firsts.
I think that's
Um,
where the Jalen Carter rumor came in because I think the Raiders. Well, like kudos to the Raiders for this. For the what they got back. They got 2 first round picks from the Ravens back. The Ravens are picking 14th overall in this draft, Michael. It's very rare when a team trades a pick that high and then
well,
their
I
other
mean, think
first round
about it.
pick.
It's the same principle with the Rams. Are the Ravens at 14 thinking they're going to get a player that's going to be more impactful to what they currently have than Max Crosby? And like their answer is no, clearly. They view that they have a window here that might be starting to, it's on the closing side of things. And I think this is one of those moves. Their pass rush was historically bad, and this obviously helps it a ton. Um, but I totally think Dallas could have matched it and put themselves in a position to
Yeah, but they
get.
remember they can't trade their first round pick next year, right? Because of the Mac the Parsons trade?
I don't think they can't not trade it.
Don't you
Why
remember
wouldn't they be
the?
able to trade it? I thought the poison pill was just like it went sending Parsons to Green Bay. You can't trade him to the Eagles, basically. You can't trade him to the NFC East within a year, was like what it was. I didn't think it had anything to do with the Cowboys not being able to do anything.
Oh,
Um, I like I think the Cowboys were so caught up in the idea of wanting it to be like a scheme. You know what I mean? I think they wanted it to be like, we traded Micah for 2 firsts and Kenny Clark, and then we only traded 1 first for Max Crosby. So what would you rather have? Micah Parsons or an extra first and Kenny Clark and Max Crosby? And it's like, okay, yeah, I guess I'd rather the Cowboy like, I think that's what they wanted to come away with it, and for that reason, they didn't wanna just send the Parsons return to the Raiders for Crosby. I think that turned them off from wanting to send 2 firsts over there, um, and it cost them. I think Max Crosby I really thought he was gonna be a Cowboy. I thought that was a really good fit, but clearly didn't fall through. Um, Listen, Baltimore has a lot of I think this is a nice trade for the Ravens. I think Max Crosby is an awesome player. He really is. You know, talk about game records, he's definitely one of those guys. Um, the only it's not that it's a concern because it has nothing to do with this trade, you know what I mean? Like saying, "Oh, well, what about their offensive line?" That has nothing to do with the fact that they just acquired Max Crosby. Um, so I can't I feel like it's not fair for me to assess the trade under the scope of, well, they have other needs. It's like, yeah, of course they're going to do something. They're not going to not do anything. You know what I mean? So until I watch them do nothing about the offensive line, I'm not going to sit here and say this was a bad trade at the moment. But I do think, when you can get Max Crosby, I think it's worth it to get him. I think he's a really nice player. Um, Clearly, I think he'd rather have gone to a contender, wanna go to a team that's probably gonna make the playoffs versus a team that Dallas could make the playoffs next year, absolutely, but I think Baltimore has a better shot. Um, and he's just a really, really good player, and if you're the Raiders, like, you free up a ton of cap space with that, you get 2 first-round picks, I think they made off very well with it as well, so we'll see what they end up doing with
yeah.
14, but
I think the Ravens right now.
There
You know,
there I think there's a bit of a panic button that got pushed that it was like, we waited too long on Harbaugh, we missed out on keeping McDonald, who just won a Super Bowl, we just missed the playoffs. I think there is a lot of pressure inside the Baltimore building to get themselves to a Super Bowl within, like, the next 2 years.
well, yes. I also think too. If you look at the Ravens, I think I do agree the GM is definitely on the hot seat. The owner was talking like a mafia boss, like really
Yeah,
like Steve Bisciotti was like
yeah,
told their GM, you know, because of your offseason moves, I had to fire our good friend John Harbaugh.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
what? Like,
yeah.
oh, what? That was really weird. And then, yeah, like this is, listen, man, like if you look at the Ravens, if you said to me, John, what's the worst part of the Ravens? They just haven't had a pass rush in years, it felt like,
Mhm.
like a serious pass rush. And Matabweke, is that officially like a career ending injury he suffered?
No, he's expected to be back
Okay.
at a BK, yeah.
Remember they drafted Mike Green and everyone just assumed like Mike Green was going to walk in and get like 10 sacks as a rookie and he was kind of like
Mhm.
just not like ever like even like Ray Ginger was like he's like my Quinion Mitchell of the
Mhm.
of like the draft of guy that stood out to me on tape from guy from small school
Yeah.
lights it up, on tape and then at the combine, but
Mhm.
bro, did you feel a sigh of relief because the Ravens were one of the teams heavily or was reportedly calling the Eagles about AJ Brown? Now they traded 2 firsts. They have nothing unless they
They
want to start trading players for that would help. That's going to acquire them AJ Brown, right?
Mhm. I mean, well, I don't know. AJ Brown, I just don't think he's getting traded, and, like, I'm gonna or at least not now. at least not this year, maybe next year. But I don't know. I'm trying not to get myself too in the
By
weeds
the
with
way,
it.
I feel like if the Raiders were competent at drafting, Michael, I would give them the winners of this, not to slander Crosby. 14th overall pick. The Raiders need offensive linemen. There will be a good offensive lineman at 14 for them to draft. And next year's draft, Michael, not to get too deep into the weeds, is supposed to be one of the most talent laden drafts
Hmm.
that in like a very long time, right? There's going to be a lot of great players available. And for the
Hmm.
Raiders to get another first round pick in that draft is huge, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, yeah. Well, let's talk about something positive for a change.
Uh,
Phillies.
are we? Well, oh, I thought.
Oh,
Let's
you want
talk
to talk
about
about the
the
Jordan Davis extension? I thought,
yeah.
oh,
Eagles extend Jordan
I
Davis.
forget. When we talk before the show, we're not being recorded. So it's not like,
Yeah, we talked. Jordan Davis got extended, and it paid pretty lucratively, man. A 3-year extension, 26 million a year. And I'll be honest, I love Jordan Davis. Really, really do. He's awesome. I do think this is a hair of an overpay, a hair of like projecting here. Like you're hoping he's because listen, as great as he was, as impactful as he was last year, I $26 million is a lot. And I look at what Milton Williams got at 28, and then I'm like, okay, I figured Jalen Jordan Davis wouldn't. I thought 22 million would be like the peak of AAV that he would get, for a nose tackle. Ultimately, is still what he is. And the extra 4 million, it's not much, not to like whatever, but it's definitely a lot of money. It is a lot of money for a guy that I hope further unlocks like some pass rush stats too, on top of what he provides in the run game. Because what he does in the run game is awesome. It's really great. It deserves a lot of credit and deserves a lot of respect. And obviously financially that's come through. But I do want to see if he's gonna. I mean, listen, it's a lot of money for her, Jordan Davis, and he's just gonna need to get better. And we talked about this pre-show that I think this is like a bit of a reward for it's like, great job for being locked in and getting in shape and, the Peloton and the last year and a half, we've really seen you grow as a player and we hope to keep seeing that growth. And I think that this was like hey, Jalen Carter, you want your 4 years, $160 million contract that we all think you're going to get one day. You need to maybe take some notes and come into camp in a little bit of better shape and have some better practice habits and don't just rely off your raw talent a little bit, work a little bit harder, and you'll be in a position to defensive player of the year votes. I think this was like a light little tap on the ass to kind of get things going for him too. I think it's a big contract, you know what I mean? Like it's a huge contract that if this was what you were projecting, you know what I mean? Like this whole time, you could argue that they probably should have just kept Milton Williams or at least offered like this contract to Milton Williams and see if maybe he'd want to stay. But it's interesting. It's a very interesting move. I was excited when I saw it happen. I saw the money and I was like a little hesitant. And listen, love Jordan Davis. I do think there's another gear that can be unlocked if he keeps, you know, keeping on, staying in shape and whatnot, all that sort of good stuff. So
yeah, I mean, is it an overpay? Yes, but is it what he would have gotten in the open market? My opinion, yes, because you got teams now, Michael, that like when you're like are in a rebuild in the NFL, you want to hit like triple digits in available cap space in an off season. And
mhm,
if you overpay, you're not going to get killed for it if you have a quarterback that's on a rookie deal. And Michael, there's
yeah.
going to be a lot of teams with quarterbacks on rookie deals that will be aggressive in free agency. I mean,
Mhm,
geez, you had 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round 2 years ago. You had not a lot taken in the first round this year, but like the Browns have their starting quarterback on a rookie deal. The Titans have
Hmm.
a quarterback on their rookie deal. The Giants have their quarterback on a rookie deal. And then this offseason, the Jets will have, sorry, excuse me, not the Raiders will have a quarterback on a rookie deal. I think the Jets will probably draft a quarterback day 2. They'll have on a rookie deal. Um, there's probably going to be another team, maybe the Cardinals will draft a quarterback. Again, what I'm trying to say is the model for rebuilds in the NFL is get a quarterback on the rookie deal so you can go out in free agency and sign guys like Jordan Davis. So if you wanted to keep Jordan Davis, this is what you had to pay. I
Yeah.
do agree. I do agree with you though. Should they have just given Milton Williams his contract they gave Jordan Davis? Sure, but Milton Williams wanted to play
I mean, he
every.
would have had to have taken it. I think he like if the Eagles offered it and New England still offered 28 million a year, he was leaving regardless. If the Eagles, I do think if the Eagles matched the highest money that he would have gotten, I think he would have taken it. I think the deal of the rotation D line, and the room that you get to play with, I think that's worth it for guys if they're still going to get paid as like the highest paid at their position. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, I think the Eagles kind of like that what he brings. Well, so like, what does he bring? Let's look at Jordan JD. What does JD bring? Great, great guy in the run game. Eats up blockers, right? Eats up blockers. But now that he's kind of in shape, now he can, make solo tackles. I think he led all interior D linemen in solo tackles,
Yeah. No, listen,
right?
he's a monster. He really is.
Now he's now, and like you said, I do agree with you as well. He does have another like level to unlock, I think, and especially as a pass rusher. You know,
Yeah. You
um,
saw flashes all year with the pass rush. I just think it's just going to keep getting better, And listen, there are a lot of things non-football related, or at least like off field in locker room stuff that he provides. A big leader on this team. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the C on his chest soon. If not, maybe this upcoming. You know what I mean? Like he truly one of those guys loved in the locker room. The coaches love him. Like it's clearly he's clearly valued very highly. Among Fangio. Like
is
these are
it
the sort of
is it time
moves
to
that
invest in the Jordan Davis jersey now that he's here for 3 more years?
he's locked in. It might be worth it. Might be worth it.
All right, so let's just talk about the. You mentioned another player there. Let's just because listen, I know there's.
Well, what? I don't. Nothing happened. You know what I mean?
I know, but
I could
like
just talk
nothing
about
happened, but
baseball.
like it's worth talking about. We talked about Bo Bichette.
Okay. Well, wait. I don't
Why
know
can't
what
we
you're
talk
talking
about
about.
this?
Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So go ahead.
Well, you want to talk about the Eagles getting phone calls about Jalen Carter
Oh,
because you
I
were
mean,
propping up JD and then you kind of used it to not slander. That's not what your intention was, but you were kind of like,
no. Like, listen, I love Jalen Carter. I think he's an incredible player. I had no one like I don't think the off-field stuff is nearly as big of a deal as clearly it's made out to be. Clearly, the Eagles maybe feel that way a little bit. I don't know if I think the Eagles might have been throwing the name around as much as maybe teams were calling about him. But regardless, Jeff McClain was talking about on his podcast that it's like, you know, if we were in March of last year and we were trying to project Eagles extensions of within the next year, I think we all would have assumed Jalen Carter's getting a massive contract, and he's not going to this offseason, and it makes sense for him to not. Last year was considered like a down year. He had the shoulder injuries. He was a little slow to start the year, and clearly there's some, I think, concern with just giving him a ton of money. I think they just have some worry about him, the person, a little bit, which I mean, I guess there's reason to feel that way, but I do think that's a little bit like a hair of crap. But regardless, like no one would feel comfortable if they gave Jalen Carter a
uh,
35 plus $1 million extension today. You know what I
I don't know.
mean?
Okay. Well, speaking, not to cut you. Sorry to cut you off. I don't know if this is breaking news. I think we all kind of assumed this was going to happen because tomorrow is the legal negotiation window for free agents. The Eagles are working, according to Jeremy Fowler, the Eagles are working very hard on getting a Jalen Phillips extension to prevent him from hitting free agency, which I think we kind of expected. But now that we're so close to the deadline, I kind of thought he was going to be let go.
Let's talk about Jalen Phillips because Carter's more like whatever. I'll be honest. I don't need to give Jalen Phillips $20 million a year, 21, 20, whatever it's going to cost. I personally, not that I don't like him, not that he wasn't really fun last year when he got here, and it felt like there was a little vibe shift in the defense, and he really helped out that pass rush. But there's legitimate injury concern, absolutely. He's gotten hurt every year, and last year was like his first year where he was fully healthy. He had no bye week, and he still played every game. And like maybe that's part of why he fell off at the end of the year. But he did. He fell off at the end of the year. Like he was nowhere to be found in the playoff game against a practice squad offensive line with the 49ers. And like not to say he's not a good player, not to say he's not going to be worth whatever he gets, but I'm thinking and I'm like, if we're going to give him $20 million a year, again, I would have just rather kept Josh Sweat for 17. You know what I mean? Like Josh Sweat was a very nice player for us. And I think, you know, I my thing is if you're gonna start breaking the $20 million a year threshold for an edge rusher, I feel as though they need to be like a game wrecker. And I just don't think he's that sort of consistent game wrecker. Yes, he wrecked a couple games last year, but it's like when you're in that range of over 20 million a year for edge rushers and you're getting higher, those pass rushers need to be like constantly
Well, I agree. I mean, also,
terrorizing
yeah,
quarterback.
I agree. By the way, I pulled up Josh Sweat's game log with the Cardinals. He had one sack in his last 6 games with the Cardinals. I know
Yeah, I mean, the
he
whole
was
team quit, and you know
the whole
that.
team basically quit. But I think it's also worth noting. I love Josh Sweat, Michael. We there are definitely episodes of this program where we complained at the end of at least in 2023 for certain that Josh Sweat kind of just tails off at the end of the season, either because he's worn out or for whatever reason, like
He
he's
had 12 sacks last year. Like, he had 12 sacks last year. Phillips
yeah.
had
I'm not
5.
saying he's bad. Listen. I'm just
Phillips had
saying.
5 sacks.
I'm just saying maybe the Eagles should just find an edge rusher that doesn't fall off at the end of the last 5 weeks of the
We're
season.
gonna give a guy $22 million who had 5 sacks last year. That's a lot of money. And, like, Jeff McClain was talking about, like, some more willingness to do the dirty work than, like, obviously, like, a lot more than what Reddick was willing to do in terms of, like, the run game, and apparently also sweat a little bit is how they feel internally, but again, it's a guy he's only 26 years old, so that's very intriguing,
I
but,
mean, you
like,
just
the
need
health's
Nolan
been a
Smith to stay
concern.
healthy. I mean, that's I would just
Yeah,
want
like, that's another but, injuries, legitimate concern. I don't know. I wouldn't would I be mad if they extended Jalen Phillips? No. But would there be a worry in the back of my head if they extend Jalen Phillips? Absolutely. I would definitely be a little concerned. I don't I hope they're not doing it for the sake of feeling like they need to make it the draft pick worth it. Like, if they don't think that
I mean, they
the
wasted a third round pick on Keely Ringo. I mean, I don't think you should have that thought
well,
process.
that's what I'm saying. Like,
Double
if you
tripling down. It was
and
plus
they I
it's
hope
a
not. Like,
it's a
it's
third
a
round pick in a weak draft. Like realistically, the third round pick the Eagles gave up for Jalen Phillips is probably like a fifth round pick in next year's draft.
right, and you get a comp pick back. So, like, we'll see. There's a lot of smoke with
So,
it. So at this
according
point,
to
all the
Fowler,
smoke.
the Eagles, their alternative option is because was he? I don't know if he was just released, right? Jonathan Grenard, did he just get cut by?
Yeah, he got cut. Or they're shopping him. I don't remember.
he is like the alternative option. Which, listen, uh, had a down year last year, and listen, we left a bust on 9 when we're talking about the Minnesota Vikings. Like he had absolutely nothing to do with him just being bad. Like we can't just be like, oh well, the Vikings offense was just horrific. Like he had 3 sacks last year too. Like he's probably going to go for like a day 3 pick,
Right.
Jonathan Bernard. You
Right.
know,
So we'll see. But let's get into baseball. Let's talk some pitchers. Let's talk some Phillies ball. Um, let's start with the bullpen because the bullpen is good. The bullpen is better than last year on paper entering the season. And I think a big part of that is, Juan Duran getting a full season out of him. I think a lot of people forget Jordan Romano was this team's closer for like months. It wasn't just like 1 month. It wasn't just a week. It was like three
yeah, there was
months.
definitely a lot of complaining by us last year about Jordan Romano and
Right.
how
And it's
long
like,
they stuck with him. It was kind of wild.
right. And it's like you were still winning a lot of games with that going on. And now you have a guy that is heralded as one of the top relievers in all of baseball and, one of the best closers in baseball. And he's working on like a new pitch, little like split change to go along with his regular fastball, splitter, curveball. So, just tinkering with some stuff, and that could be intriguing. But overall, not a ton to say about him other than just like he's really good, and it's nice to have him for a full season.
Yeah, the thing with the Phillies bullpen is I would say this is the best as I've seen in a very long time from innings 7 to 9. Because you have Tanner Banks, you just signed Brad Keller, who looked pretty nasty last night in the WBC. Granted, they're up by like a bazillion runs and they're playing Great Britain, but
Encouraging to say, listen, like,
we're good. I mean, you can't say
yeah,
like you'd be concerned if he's throwing like flat 93 mile per hour fastballs.
no, yeah. So Brad Keller's another one, the
You got
big free
Alvarado
agent
pitching
signing.
for a contract.
Yeah, yeah. So, your bullpen, there's belief, a bounce back of Kerkering, hopefully, like mentally is all good, and mentally's and
He's also working on a
fucking
new pitch.
Christ, John, he's working on a splitter. I've only been saying it for literally 2 years now of saying, hey, it'd be really cool if he had another pitch, either a splitter or a changeup, because it would make everything else so much better. Because guess what? The sweeper is not as good as it used to be. It's not like a
Yeah, but when you
frisbee
only throw two
anymore.
pitches, like if you're a hitter, you have a 50% chance of guessing what type of pitch is coming your way.
You can get away with it like he did early in his career when it was that nasty, but then the sweeper started to suck, and it was like, "Okay, can't get away with it anymore," and they
I mean,
just
I think
took a
I
while to
think also
realize that.
too when he rose so quickly through the ranks. I mean, there wasn't much of a book on him at that point. He's been in the big leagues now for a couple of years. Now teams have a kind of a
I
book on
mean,
him.
listen, the movement profile, like, you look at the baseball swap pages and stuff, it's just not as good, so hopefully that can get a little bit better, but in the event it doesn't, adding a new pitch will make it just appear that much better, and, like, it's an out pitch you can throw to lefties now. You have a pitch that tails away from lefties that he didn't really have. So that's really nice. Hopefully, he keeps working on that and that pitch becomes useful for him because that makes him a weapon. And then the other guy that's uh, worth of note, besides like the core back end guys there, is going to be Jonathan Bowlen, the guy they got in return for Matt Strom. And he had a rough outing the other day against like Canada or whatever. But he he's a guy that, guess what? If he's not good, one, it doesn't really matter because he's your sixth reliever in the pecking order. But what is interesting, and I guess inspiring is not the right word, but like what's worth
Encouraging.
being optimistic about, yeah, is this is like month 1 in the Cotham factory, you know what I mean? Like, Caleb Cotham just got his hands on him. There's not gonna be a ton of pressure for him to be extremely important and extremely needed to pitch leverage innings for the first like few months of the
Yeah,
season.
well, exactly. Like I just mentioned early on, the Phillies leverage guys like innings 7 through 9 are Tanner Banks, Jose Alvarado, Brad Keller, Joan Duran. The rest of
Yeah,
the
and that's not even
bullpen is,
including Kerkering. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty
and
good.
then like if from like innings 5 to 6, God forbid, it's
You got
really
your Kerkerings, Bowlin, and then like, one of those extras of
Backus,
Lazar and Bacchus
Lazar.
and Mesa, whoever ends up making it out of those guys. So it's like it's pretty encouraging. Eventually Taiwan pivots into the bullpen, I'm sure, hopefully. But Bowlin, it's sort of like, listen, you're not going to hit all the time. We know this. We've gotten excited over guys with crazy stuff that ended up just being hot ass over the last couple of years. And like, I'm thinking of Junior Marte. I'm thinking of Carlos Hernandez last year, or yeah, that was last
Jose
year, which is crazy to think about.
Ruiz or
Yeah, Ruiz
Ortiz.
to an extent, and it's like, Carlos Hernandez. It was like, the stuff is so nasty. There's no reason he's not going to have to pitch leverage early in the season. Just let Cotham work with him. And he never figured it out. He was never good. And it's like a guy like Bowlin is that same sort of thing where he's got some really good stuff. He profiles pretty well, even though he doesn't throw super hard. And early in the season, April, May, he's not going to be trusted in super high leverage situations. And there's just a lot of upside that if Cotham gets his hands on him and really works with him well and gets him to be a reliable piece, it's nice to be able to have it's nice to be able to have like 4 guys that you trust in high leverage, and it's really nice that the Phillies currently have like 5 guys entering the season, including Kerkering with that 4 that you mentioned, and, if Bowlin becomes guy number 6 that you trust in leverage, now it's like you got 6 guys you trust in leverage, 2 of them are lefties, and you have like a funky Kyle Backhouse other lefty that could probably just get some outs because he's got that weird ass delivery, and it's like, that's a hell of a bullpen. That is a really good bullpen. Obviously, there's some guys that could be like disasters. Like we know that Jose Alvarado is prone to like potentially implode, and we know that, Tanner Banks, we think it's real, but there is probably a decent enough chance that he just isn't, and that would really suck. But I like, again, it's not what we think is going to happen. It's just something that could happen. Is it possible that Ryan Kerkering's mental is so cooked after the playoff disaster that he never is like, he just can't do it anymore, or at least not here? And
For a
it's like,
guy that committed
sure.
such an egregious play to end his season, I felt like he didn't catch a lot of flack for it like I thought he would.
I mean, I don't know. He caught a lot of crap.
But I remember when that happened, whenever someone would chirp about it, like or sorry, chirp about it, excuse me, one of my buddies is his nickname is Charp. People would chirp about it. It was like, don't blame Orion Kerkering. Blame the fact the Phillies couldn't hit their way out of a wet paper bag and they couldn't run the bases at all properly.
Well, I yeah, sure. I just
It's unfair to say, "Oh, it's Kirk," to scapegoat him when
Well, because
bad
that's honestly
hitting,
because it's true. Like, it's not like
bad
okay, okay,
defense.
okay, okay, okay. We're not reopening the Band-Aid for no reason, like, and that's true. All that is true. It's like it, it's easy to be mad at him. It's hard to like pin the whole thing on him, but it's easy to just be like, you can't be a major leaguer if you have that level of brain fart, like in a big moment. You know what I mean? Like that is a little league level mistake where you don't field it cleanly, you absolutely shit your pants and you throw it to the wrong base. And not only that, you throw it 8 miles above where the target is because the first figure you saw was the umpire. So you threw it right at the umpire. And it's like, all right, man. Like that, like major leaguer, you just can't panic like that. It's your, regardless. Hopefully he comes back like a demon. I do think there's 2 sides of the spectrum of, like, now he's, like, broken, and it's broken in a good way where he just uses it to be a killer. That'd be awesome, man. Like, that'd be really cool. Um, or like mentally he's cooked. So we'll see. We will see how it ends up. But ultimately, I'm pretty bullish on the bullpen. I have to say. Would you agree? I'm bullish on the pen.
Yes, I think the addition the mid-season addition of Jawan Duran, basically getting the ninth inning figured out, um, was huge, right? Because
Hmm.
I think this is a good transition to the rotation. The rotation is going to really help the bullpen out in terms of those 5 to 6 innings where a lot of teams, struggle with because they don't have good starting pitching or enough starting pitching to go deep into games. And the Phillies, despite
Luckily,
losing the Rangers and Suarez, and assuming Zach Wheeler comes back and pitches like the Zach Wheeler that we all know and love, probably still have the best rotation in baseball. I mean, it's fair to say.
it's up there. It's definitely like top three. I'll say comfortably with the Dodgers and like I do think Boston's is really good now. Like you forget they also got Sonny Gray over in Boston. Like Crochet
I'm not
Rangers
like a
Sonny Gray.
big sunny gray guy, but
I mean, as your number three, you're not a big Sonny Gray guy. To me, I'm a pretty huge
he's
Sonny
just
Gray
been
guy
around
as my number
forever,
three.
man. By the way, I got that.
This
By
is
the way, I have the Dodgers rotation pulled up here. I mean, obviously Yamamoto is very good. Pitched 9,000 innings in the postseason. Kind of curious.
obviously Blake Snell, obviously Tyler Glass. Like I think you just forget some of the guys that were there
I just feel
just
like
because of
Tyler Glass now just takes 2 months off every season, and we'll just see.
well, it doesn't
Blake
matter.
Snell is intriguing because, again, he was banged up.
Again, it just doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
I
Like
mean,
it
you're kind of. I mean, realistically,
not like, "Oh, just pout the punt the season," but it's like they have enough of good offense to deal with it, and, like, they just have enough
they're
arms they
also
can just
just
deploy.
insanely clutch, and they also benefit from their opponents just having massive, just brain
Meltdowns, for sure.
meltdowns.
Regardless, looking at the rotation, it is gonna be one of the best in baseball. I feel like I could not be more bullish and more excited to watch the 2 lefties deal this year, to watch Christopher Sanchez and Jesus Luzardo just absolutely shove on a consistent basis. Um, I think they're both gonna be
Did you have
awesome.
Christopher Sanchez becoming the modern day Johan Santana on your bingo card? I didn't.
No, it's like the changeup is just so unhittable, it's hilarious, and
It is hilarious. Just ask
it's
Vladimir
it's
Guerrero
actually
Jr.
funny, dude. Like those guys are like it's special. It really is special. And every update you get from Wheeler is pretty positive at this point, which makes me excited. And then Luzardo, man, like why watching his spring outing the other day, and you're just like, what an animal. Like what an absolute horse on the mound. Like that dude is out there just pumping and ripping the sweeper that shocked the entire world last year, like obviously had the disaster blow up starts that tanked his whole like season long stats last year. But there is not a doubt in my mind that like he's absolutely getting Cy Young votes, and I really do think there's at least two of the starters are going to finish top five in Cy Young voting this year, and that'd be awesome. Luzardo is so good, and then there's Nola, man, who like has looked good in the spring. I have to be encouraged by it. Like, and really, what I'm saying is I'm encouraged by the velocity. He's creeping up to 94. He's in the mid 93s. He's averaging like the upper 92s, and like that's exactly where he needs to be. Like when he starts barely topping at 92, that's when things start becoming a disaster. But if he's sitting in like the mid to upper 92s and is touching 94 a few times every start, that's where Nola's at his best. Not, again, he's not blowing it by everybody, but it makes everything else play off a lot better. And he looks comfortable out there, he looks smooth out there. His last outing was pretty good, picking up good amount of strikeouts. So I am encouraged for a bounce back Nola. And it's one of those things where it sucks that Ranger's gone. It hurts the soul, it hurts the mind, it hurts the body, it hurts all of it. It's everyone's favorite, like, steady, like, teddy bear that is just gone and it sucks. However, I do think a bounce back version of Aaron Nola will absolutely soften that blow. Um, it's just a consistent guy that's going to take the ball every 5 days and pitch
Would you
well and
like to
pitch
hear a
effectively.
very interesting correlation between Aaron Nola's spring trading versus how he pitches in the regular season?
Okay.
What do you think Aaron Nola's spring training stats were last year? What do you think he like? Give me like I'll
I mean,
give you
was
this.
it bad? I'm assuming it was bad, right?
He had a 1.84 ERA in the spring last year, 14.2
Really?
innings pitched, 9 hits, three earned runs, 17 strikeouts, with a WHIP of 1.02. What was Aaron Nola's best season of his career? Just what do you think off the top of your head? Like,
2018.
okay, in the spring that year, 2-1, 3.5 ERA, 18 innings pitched. Not great, but not bad. But you look at let's say what was his other best? What would think his other best career year was as a player?
22.
0-1, 5.65 ERA, 14 innings pitched. So in other
That was because
words,
that was coming off. That was people forget. No, well, people maybe don't forget. 2021 was just not a great year for Nola, and it was like the homer every start, and it was bad. And then he had the bad spring, and everyone was ready to like blow their brains out, and then was just so good. Oh God, you know.
so I guess we want him to get just demolish his next start because he's gonna
Listen, I'm not gonna hold
be
that
the
to him.
comeback player of the year this
Because
year.
last year it was like he was giving up, like, you know what I mean? It's
He
one of
wasn't
those, like,
healthy.
it's one of
Couldn't push
those.
off the mound fully. That was his issue.
Well, he was just tired. Like, I think while I do think there was truth with the ankle, I really do think he was just gassed. I really, really do. Like, and he said it. He goes, I just think the time off was something really, really nice for me. It had been 3 straight seasons of long seasons, never getting hurt and pitching into the playoffs every single year. And I think it just caught up with him that he was just tired and needed a break that was significant. And yeah, I'm sure the ankle was bothering him, but I think the Phillies, because they were so privileged in the pitching department, were able to just literally put him on the shelf for like 2.5 months because they just could. And he comes and throws a great playoff outing. So I'm gonna, continue to be bullish on Nola. And it's so much less about the results when like early in the season, I guess I'll say. And like you're looking at the velocity, you're looking at the stuff. Is the fastball not topping out at 91.6? We're like, holy hell, that's a freaking disaster. He's just throwing meatballs up there. But if he's pumping, 93, 94, they're in much better business with him for sure. The next guy I want to talk about was Taiwan Walker. We'll save Painter for last. Taiwan, not much to talk about with Taiwan other than just like I think he's gonna hopefully I think he's just gonna do what he did last year and just hopefully it continues to be good results. I know he was the most like anti-analytics guy out there. Like you look at his baseball savant and that thing was like Antarctica blue. And then you look and you're like, well, his ERA is only like, 2.8 or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Or like 3.4, whatever it was. I forget what it was. But every time Taiwan was getting dragged around all season. It was like we were like, "Oh, maybe Taiwan should be the closer." Remember that for like a minute there in like May when Romano was starting to have a disaster and like he was I was like, "Oh, Taiwan's this multi-inning reliever, like genius." Remember that I vividly remember the start in or not the start, the outing in Sacramento where they beat up on the A's where Sanchez shoved for 6 scoreless or whoever. I think it was Sanchez. And then Taiwan took the ball and finished the game through the 7th, 8th, and ninth, and I was like, "Wow, like, that is just nice to have." And, he was all over the place. He was doing a lot of that. He was, coming in for mop-up situations. He was your spot starter for a lot of the year, and he never complained. He never said anything, and he just played well. It's hard to not appreciate a guy for what, he's what he was asked to do last year and the fact that he was able to do it and produce good results, I can't complain. It's one of those things where I don't really care how it looks. If you don't give up runs, I'm going to be happy. And if you do give up runs, I'm not going to get that upset
Yeah,
about it.
when
You
I
know what I
saw the
mean?
report that the Phillies were looking to maybe add a starter in spring training, I was like, why? Like Taiwan Walker kind of proved last year he's still when he's like, healthy and has his,
I think that was under the guise of if they did end up moving him, Taiwan, to free up some
gotcha.
money too. And it's
Like,
like, even then, I still wouldn't mind adding another arm, until for before Wheeler gets back.
well,
But
there's another player we need to
yeah,
talk about.
let's talk about Andrew Painter. Interesting start to the spring for Painter. The results are looking good. Hasn't given up a run. Um, the
But
f-
you worded that
the
like there's a butt in there.
There is a buzz, a little bit of a but, and the but is that the stuff at the current moment isn't looking incredible. Like, when we're talking about young prospects and, like, young pitching prospects especially, you almost don't even give a damn about what the numbers look like. You're just kind of like you'd be very content with just watching him pitch without a scoreboard and without, you just wanna see, is this stuff playing well? Um, and I guess the biggest concern at the moment is the fastball, where listen, I'm not, like, super worried. There's a lot of people that are, like, kinda pushing a panic button right now, which, like, I'm definitely not gonna be doing, but in March, his velocity, his first, year post Tommy John, after first, like, full off season post Tommy John and stuff, he's hitting, like, 98, 97, and, like, that's cool, but the shape of the fastball is not great at the moment. It's still a little flat, and I think there's people worrying a little too much about that. I think that's one of those things where it's like, listen, you just kinda gotta let Caleb work with them and let them figure it out. He's still a young kid. I don't think there should be a ton of pressure on him to contribute to the Phillies in 2026. Like, it'd be great if he can, but again, I don't think it's like a requirement. I think it's really just working on, just getting it back. You want your fastball to look like it's rising. You want it to look like it's going up a skee ball ramp at a time and just like taking off at the last moment. That's what Garrett Cole throws. That's what Tarek Skubal throws. That's what Zach Wheeler throws. That's what all these guys that have great fastballs crochet. That's what they that's what all their fastballs look like. And it is virtually impossible to hit. And like that's what painters looked like in high school and early in the minors and all that sort of stuff. You get Tommy John and you're just kind of working back to try to recapture that movement, find that arm slot again, and
I
get the
think it's
stuff to where it needs to
really,
be.
I think it's very important to note if you pull up Andrew Painter's numbers as a professional baseball player, Michael, he's only started 52 games in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
That's not a
I
lot
mean,
of
yeah.
action for
Mhm.
like I think you have to be patient with him. This is not a Paul Skeen situation where he was pretty much like, okay, this is pretty much like, pretty much he's already polished. He could probably, his senior year or junior year of college, he probably could have pitched in the major leagues then too,
Mhm.
realistically.
Yeah.
So you got to have some patience with him. I agree. I think the question is this: is he going to start in AAA to just get work in and then be called up? Or is he going to be in there until Wheels is back and then they're going to make a decision on him?
I I don't think he should make the opening day roster. And I think
I agree.
that's part of why they need another starter. Like I know we talked like even without Taiwan being gone, I think why they need another arm is for this. And I feel like the way they're kind of letting it play out, like it might just be Painter, and, like, they're gonna keep his starts short and, trust the bullpen throughout those days early in the
I'm just
season,
not a
but
big fan of like doing bullpen games until Wheels is back, just because I just don't want to burn guys out this early on in the year. You
Yeah,
should
that's why.
like
Like, that's why I wish they went out and got another starter. Unless, like, is there a
like
guy
you
that
could
we're
do that. Like
forgetting
you
about?
could do that once or twice a month, but not like 4 or 5 times until. And plus, like I mean,
I'm
like
just
what are
thinking,
the?
are we missing a guy? Is there a guy we're not remembering as a starter?
I will look. I have their non-roster invitees, and I mean,
I mean, not really. Like, I don't know. I think there's a
Trevor Richards. He's
yeah,
a
like that's not
veteran.
exciting, man.
Trevor Richards. Are we? I mean, are we for real, bro? Like,
Yeah.
I just wonder. Like, I mean, like the only thing I could think of is there's gonna be a non-roster invitee starting pitcher who is gonna make a club, and then that club is going to be like, oh crap, we're going to do this other starting pitcher, and then the Phillies are like, hey, well, what if we trade you? I don't know, like someone of nondescriptness, just to take this guy off your hands.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna end up doing,
Like I
honestly. And
honestly kind of thought, I think their intention they were trying to get rid of Casty was they would get maybe like that like fringe starter guy.
yeah, but I think that was out the window pretty early on in the trying to move off Casty sweepstakes. But yeah, overall though, I think the rotation is still really good. Maybe it's not as deep as it was last year, just because, but it is and it isn't. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, we're gonna find out if like Backus and Bolin and these like we know what Tim Mesa is. He's a a journeyman reliever. We're gonna know with a lot of these guys too what they got because well
it might just
every
be Painter. I'm thinking, man. I think it's just going to be Painter as the number 5 on opening day, and like they're just going to let him go. And like if he doesn't, I think they're gonna. I guess you're right. They're gonna let him go for a month. Wheeler's gonna come up, and if he's pitching well, Painter, they're gonna keep him up and probably pivot Taiwan to the bullpen. And if he is struggling, they're gonna option him down to AAA and let him, work on some things.
I
So
am trying to think of the last like rookie starting pitcher for the Phillies to make the club out of spring training,
yeah,
like in the rotation, not as like a reliever that they then put into the rotation, And I'm
yeah.
kind of struggling, Michael. I mean, do you?
Last time a rookie starter, um, that was on the opening day roster. Like you'd know better than me. Like, is it Cole Hamels? Like,
No, Cole Hamels got called up mid-year. It was a big
did he?
deal.
I don't remember.
Like it is like, dude, like isn't that kind of bizarre?
I mean, you know what it probably was? It was probably in like the flop years of the last like pre 2019, like
Like
you know, like Eichhoff or something like that.
I'm
Like,
gonna look at 2015 Phillies because that was like the year they were.
I'm gonna look up Eichhoff's game log. Jared Eichhoff made his rookie debut in 2015 in nope, August, so not Eichhoff. Who was another
Not
brutal
Vince
one?
Velasquez because he pitched for the Astros.
Not Spencer Howard, right? Well, maybe technically Spencer Howard because he opened the year and he opened his career in 2020. But does that really, are we counting that? Not
It's a
really. We're not counting
technicality.
that.
I mean, I was
We're not
thinking is
counting that.
like, are we thinking of like Alec Asher or remember Adam Morgan was originally a starter before
He
he
was
became
originally a starter. Let's look at his game log. When did he make his major league debut? Adam, God, dude, Jesus Christ, it like pisses me off. 2015, let's see, June. His first outing was June. I would have been pretty encouraged, man. 5 and 2/3, 1 run, and in a 9-2 win against the Cardinals in June, and then follows it up with 7 innings, 2 runs against the Braves in Atlanta. I would have been all Adam Morganed up back in 2015. Um, I don't know, man. It's a good question, and I don't think we're gonna be able to just stumble upon the answer. Um,
It's in other words, like it's very out of
it's rare.
character.
It's and honestly, I'll be honest, it's pretty, I think, rare across baseball. I feel like you don't see a ton of guys, and listen, I guess the guys that you do see as the rookie pitchers that make opening day rosters are the top prospects, are the top guys that, like, you know, we're all expecting. But even then, sometimes they won't get called up till like May, like the Miz or um
Miz.
did 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 Paul Skeen when did Paul Skeens make his debut? It wasn't opening day, right?
No, he got called up.
Exactly. So, like, even Paul Skeens, where it was, like, so obvious he was gonna be
So,
great, but they wanna manipulate, service time and stuff. He didn't
of
make his
course.
debut till May.
Okay, so I think I may know when Andy Painter's first start is going to be because I have the Phillies schedule pulled up. So they obviously open the year on the 26th at home opener with the Rangers, right?
Sorry about that. I
Whoops.
was trying to X out a tab, and I accidentally X'd out of the podcast.
Whoops.
Anyways,
All right, so I pull up the Phillies schedule because I have the Phillies schedule pulled up right here. Home
okay.
opener, Sanchez on the bump against the Rangers on a Thursday. Then you have like
I will
the
be there. Isn't that exciting?
nice. That is very exciting, my friend.
Yeah.
And then Friday they're off. It's like typically like opening day. There's always like a day off in there.
Only give them in case it rains, but it's
Yeah,
whatever.
right. And
Which
then
it actually did,
Saturday,
like, 2 years
like
ago.
so, I'm going to assume Saturday Rangers. I'm assuming Zeus is pitching that game.
I'm actually intrigued. I'm intrigued on how they're gonna order it. I would assume they're gonna do Sanchez Luzardo, but I don't think it's impossible they break up the lefties and do Sanchez Nola Luzardo. Not impossible, but I would assume.
By the way, you're not getting a. I don't know if you're going to be getting a promotion that day, the home opener.
You usually get something, right?
It's opening day presented by Namor Children's Health, but then Saturday
I know you get the T-shirt
you get a
Saturday.
T-shirt for fans 15 and older, which you fall under that category, sir. And
I
then
do.
Sunday against the Rangers, there is a schedule magnet provided by Valley Forge in Montgomery County.
You know what I get on opening day, which
Swift kick
I
in the
know
butt.
I get a 2025 NL East division pennant.
Oh, okay, very good. Very
Yeah,
good.
see, it's not too bad.
Very good. Yes.
I'm sure
Great,
everyone's
great
favorite
reminder.
division pennant. Yes,
Yes. So
sadly.
probably one of the most frustrating division anyway. So I'm
Anyways,
thinking. So all right, let's just say Saturday. We'll say Knowles pitches Saturday, right? Lefty,
sure.
righty. Okay, Sunday obviously it's Zeus.
Zeus.
Monday it's gonna be
Taiwan is my
Taiwan,
guess.
and then Tuesday against Nats it's gonna be Sanchez again because that's 5 days. That's
You
4
think
days.
you don't think they're gonna go through the rotation once?
No,
I think really.
no, they're gonna delay this off as much as they can.
I don't know. I think they want Painter to make his first start at home.
Well, this is what I think they want to do because Wednesday, April 1st, April Fool's Day, 1:00 Wednesday against the Nationals.
What do you think they want to hide him?
Yeah, they want to hide him. Of course they do.
I don't think. See, the difference is I don't think the Phillies are worried about him the way that, like, some of the pitching model nerds are at the moment. You know what I mean?
Well, no, I think you want to delay this off. I think you want to kind of maybe give him as much time to get acclimated to being in the big leagues. Because
listen. I don't totally disagree with that, I guess.
and then you see what he does. And if he like gives you like, we'll say 3 1/3, 2 earned runs, 4 Ks, 5 hits, and a walk.
Can't finish the inning.
I don't know. I don't know.
I'd rather it be.
He's on a
I'd rather.
pitch
I'd
count.
rather.
He's
I
on a
would
pitch
rather.
count.
I would have rather you just told me 3 innings, honestly. But anyways,
And then they had the day
um,
off the following day, and then
they go
then
to
you
Colorado.
and then you
Not for
can
nothing,
decide.
not for nothing. Looking at the schedule here, I mean, the first 9 games of the season, if they're not like 7-2, there's a problem.
I would have to agree with that, Michael. I kind of agree with that. I would much rather have Andy Painter pitch in San Fran for his second start than pitch in, even though they're playing
Oh,
a.
dude, you want him to pitch into so many good things happen in San Francisco. The Phillies always play well out there. That's awesome. I know it's a pitcher park, but that's all I need, dude. And when Bader hits a homer and all the idiot boomers are gonna be like, "Oh my God, see." I don't need that shit. God, save him. Just looking at the schedule. God, they play the Cubs twice, and I loathe the way they do the MLB schedule. Like, I like that we play all the teams. I think that's obvious. Like, how could you not do that when you play 162 effing games? But look at the first month of the season, John. Look at this. They play the San Francisco Giants on Monday, April 6th to Wednesday, April 8th. You know when they also play San Francisco Giants? Tuesday, April 28th to Thursday, April 30th. That's twice in a month you play the Giants. Let's look at the Cubs. They play the Cubs Monday, April 13th through the 15th, and then they play them April 20th to the 22nd. What
That's
are
a
we doing here? And
yeah.
then
That's really that's like a
look what's that
potential like playoff preview right
look
there.
what that's sandwiched right in between. They played the Atlanta Braves Friday, April 17th to the 19th, and then when do they play the Braves again? The following weekend, the 24th to the 26th. What are we doing with the schedule? Are we so serious right now that your schedule goes Giants, Diamondbacks, Cubs, Braves, Giants? What? What is that? That's
Do you think? Do you
ridiculous.
think they asked ChatGPT to come up with the
I mean,
schedule, and
that's like the NFL. How many
that's
teams in
what
the
it came up
NFL?
with?
How many times in the NFL did teams play their division rival twice in a 3-week stretch? That happened like 8 teams, 10 teams had that happen. Eagles had it with the Giants and the Commanders. They had it twice this year. You know how ludicrous that is?
I think they asked. I think they
They're
asked.
asking AI to make their schedules. I
I
wouldn't be
think so,
surprised.
man. Because look how stupid it is. Doesn't it
It
look?
really is.
But doesn't it look like something you're playing like a sports game, and that's what it spits out?
Yeah, it's actually absurd because
Isn't it
whatever.
maddening? Pardon the pun.
It is, man, it is. But anyways, the Phillies pitchers, they're not maddening. They should be very fun this year, and we'll have we're gonna figure out what we want to talk about the next couple shows. Obviously, we have NFL free agency upcoming, so there's gonna be a lot of news in regards to that. But all before opening day, we do want to at some point do a MLB award prediction where we predict rookies of the year, MVPs, Cy Youngs, and managers of the year. Um, is there any award that we're missing? I feel like there's not a lot of baseball awards. Like there are, but it gets to like positions of like Gold Gloves and All MLB team, which like we're not, that's a
We're
lot.
not getting
So
like silver sluggers, etc.
exactly, exactly. Is there? Let me pull up what a MVP, Cy Young,
Let's
Rookie
consult
of the
Google.
Year. Yeah, I guess that's it, man. So and manager of the year. So just that, and then we also want to do um, season predictions, which will be predicting the division winners of each division and the wild card teams for both leagues, and then give a World Series prediction. So at some point, that will be done before opening day, which opening day is a little over 2 weeks away, John. April 26th is, or sorry, March 26th is what we're staring down the barrel to. Um, good time of the year. Conference tournaments are getting going in college basketball. Shout out St. Joe's. They got a double bye. They might F around and become a at large bid if they can win the A10. That'd be awesome. But anyways, that is our show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Enjoy this lovely weather today. Enjoy some more WBC.
Yeah, a
And
lot
yeah,
of WBC today.
we'll catch
College.
you all.
We'll catch you all next week.
We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Phillies Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.